Dr. Johnson.
Good afternoon, President Claggett and members of the Board of Education. I'm Susan Johnson, Assistant Superintendent, and I would like to offer a few changes to Policy 3125, Student Behavior Interventions. I'm going to briefly go through the changes that we have suggested in the policy and then talk through a couple reasons why we have made some of those changes. So one of the first changes is very early in the purpose, and we want to edit the development of a detailed plan for the elimination of the use of restraint and seclusion. We do have a detailed plan that we follow that has expectations for training, but we feel like it's important to keep that statement in there and make sure that each year we establish consistent training plans to address strategies for de-escalation for students in crisis, to support students who have experienced trauma, to implement alternatives to restraint and seclusion, and any other topics that we feel like would be important for supporting this effort. The next two changes are just edits, so they were very minor, just spacing edits. And then in the fourth change is toward the bottom of the second page, where we added and, because we didn't feel like it was appropriate to restrict things to one of the choices of using proactive or less restrictive or alternate approaches. We felt like it needed to have an and in there. The major change in this policy actually comes with the use of seclusion. Currently, the use of seclusion is prohibited in Calvert County, with the exception of those students who have it written in their IEPs. We currently have 12 students who have it written in their IEPs. 3 of those students are in out-of-county placements. 9 of those students are with us in our system. In light of the case that happened in Frederick County, that was a federal case that resulted in the banning of all seclusion in Frederick County, in light of the fact that now there's an act in Congress that might impact what happens with restraint and seclusion in our schools, and currently a Maryland bill has been introduced to ban all seclusion in Maryland public schools, we felt like it was really important to put a sunset date on that provision. So with that, we did choose August as a date for sunset to allow school teams to work with parents and staff to make sure that, 1, it is not in the IEPs anymore, and 2, that there's time to provide supports and plans for the students that do have it in their IEPs, so that the school staffs and the students and the families are all clear on what would happen in any case where there would be serious imminent harm. And those are our proposed changes for this policy. And the last item that we took out really was just the deadline date, since that had passed.
Thank you for being proactive with those changes pending the legislation change. Any comments from the board at the moment?
Ms.
Yes,
Cousins,
ma'am.
may I have one more thing? We did remove letter G. When we're looking at data for monitoring and compliance, which we do regularly, we have found that many times our schools are not going to SST, so when we do a cross-references of the students who are, where staff have had to use restraint, that they are not being found in the SST process. Typically what has happened, they go back to their IEP teams and they're having discussions there, or they're reaching out to our behavior specialists and our behavior techs to be able to really problem solve on how to handle that. So we did not think that that was a statistic that was really helping to determine whether or not we were reducing restraint and seclusion.
Any comments from the board on the draft at this time?
Just want to say thank you to Dr. Johnson and staff for adding the provision to sunset seclusion use within Calvert County Public Schools. Very pleased by that addition. Thank you.
Well, I would like to thank everybody. We did have the committee come back, so we had parent representatives and staff representatives to help look through our policy. We're going to be looking at our procedures with that group as well to see if any changes are needed in our procedures. So I appreciate all the time that our community members and our staff have put into taking a look at our policy.
Can I ask one question, or at least make a comment? You know, when we have all these messages coming and changes, not everybody knows what IET is. You know, not everybody knows ... Mm-hmm. You know, so there are people out there that's probably watching and saying, well, what is that? You know, is there any way that we can make sure that, I know it's probably to write it out, maybe, but at least announce what that is.
I appreciate that. We use a lot of acronyms and jargon sometimes in education. So IEP is Individualized Education Plan. That's when a student is identified as a student with a disability, then an individualized plan is put in place for that student that addresses the learning goals, accommodations, and setting where the student would be served.
Thank you. Can we pass that on? I mean, does that take a motion to do that? I just...
Certainly, there's lots of places where we could spell it out. Every parent who has a student who has been identified knows it well, and that's, this policy pretty much is.
No, I understand that, but there are people out there that are interested, and when you start using that way of jargon something, and they don't understand. Okay, thank you. I'm sorry.
You're welcome.
And I just want to also pass along my congratulations. You know, it's been a long road, and, you know, we were in the news not too long ago about some high numbers in this area. And the staff was very proactive in putting in new techniques and trying to reduce our numbers. And it's been successful, and so much so that now it doesn't seem to be that big of a deal to move to full-on excluding seclusion as an option. So congratulations.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. This policy will be on the website for a 30-day review by the public. Thank you.